the international movement for a just world.
Thanks for talking to me, Dr. Chandra. Last week you attended an international forum on the issue of 9/11. Now, why 11 years after the event, September 11, 2001, why is talking about 9/11 still relevant? And if you can just talk a little bit about the conference in general.
Let's first address the important question that you asked, Niall. Why is it still relevant to talk about 9/11? I think there are at least two reasons why it is relevant to continue to talk about 9/11. Number one, there are a lot of people, very rational, sensible, thinking individuals in various parts of the world, but especially in the United States of America, who are convinced that the official account of 9/11 is full of holes. And they feel that this has to be addressed, that the truth should be made known about 9/11. The truth should be made known about any great catastrophe of that sort. We cannot conceal and camouflage the truth. So that, to my mind, is a very important reason why we should know the truth about 9/11. It is related to the second reason that I have in mind. 9/11, like other tragedies perhaps, but more so 9/11, had led to the massacre of tens of thousands of perhaps a couple of million people. Because we're not talking of just that event where 3,000 lives were lost, and that was a great tragedy, without any doubt at all. People from different nationalities who died as a result of what happened in New York and Washington, D.C. on that fateful day. But what about the hundreds of thousands, perhaps a couple of millions died in Iraq, in Afghanistan, on the Pakistan-Afghanistan border as a result of the war on terror, which is a direct consequence of 9/11. The war on terror which continues to affect all of us, to impact upon all of us. So if you look at the magnitude of the human tragedy linked to 9/11, it is something which weighs heavily on our conscience, the collective conscience of humankind. And for that reason, humankind as a whole should do everything in its power to reveal the truth about 9/11. So these, to my mind, are two very compelling reasons. And for those of us who are concerned about global politics, there is perhaps a third reason. 9/11, to my mind, is at the very heart of the global power structure. It is at the very heart of the drive towards global hegemony. It is at the very heart of the relationship between the centers of power in the world and various other client states, not just in parts of Europe or West Asia, but also I think in our part of the world, in Southeast Asia, and how they are linked to that power structure. It is also linked, I think, to the very intimate relationship between political Zionism and imperialism. So these are very compelling reasons on why the truth should be known about 9/11.
Now, despite the former Malaysian Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, leading this reinvestigation of 9/11, it seems like the local newspapers here in Malaysia really didn't cover it very much. Can you give a little bit of insight into that?
Well, the local newspapers, it's true, didn't cover the event. Neither did the foreign newspapers, mainstream media, and I'm not even sure whether the alternative media covered it. Which goes to show that when it comes to an event like 9/11 and wanting to know the truth about 9/11, it is so difficult for people to know the truth because the media is not prepared to even provide minimal coverage to an event like this. How often do you have a national leader and a person who has been very active in international politics, like Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, a person like this leading an attempt to unravel the truth about 9/11, and yet you find that even the local media doesn't give it any coverage, let alone the international media. So I think the real conspiracy that we should be concerned about, because people very often dismiss 9/11 as a conspiracy theory, those of us who say that there was something else more sinister, more diabolical behind 9/11, those of us who are the victims of that sort of attempt to dismiss inquiries into 9/11 as a conspiracy, we would like to say that the real conspiracy is by the media and those who are behind the media, those who control the media. This conspiracy of silence, trying to ignore 9/11, trying to make it appear as if this is the work of some crazies, some loonies who somehow don't want to come to terms with the truth. And yet we know that there are a lot of issues as far as 9/11 is concerned, and they're the ones who don't want people to come to grips with the truth. They're the ones who are part of this conspiracy, the conspiracy to keep the lid on 9/11, to keep it under wraps. That's the real conspiracy.
Indeed. Can we talk about a little bit of the objectives of the conference and what further action will be taken?
Well, the conference was an attempt to take the public discourse on 9/11, which has been going on in other places, especially in the United States, to a higher level. That was its objective. And from that higher level of discourse, where we look at the evidence, we analyze the evidence, all the rest of it, which happened at this meeting, the purpose is to see whether one can, once and for all, set up a truly independent, credible commission of inquiry into 9/11, a global commission of inquiry into 9/11 to establish the truth and use that inquiry and its findings as the basis for perhaps legal action in the United States of America, because that's where the event took place, and perhaps at the level of the international arena. Through international law, one has to think of working out the legal mechanisms after the Commission of Inquiry has established its findings.
Now, do you think the current government, Dr. Mahathir, he spoke of bringing about this sort of climate where other governments are acknowledging the findings of these scientists and, about 9/11. Do you think the current Malaysian government would be keen to acknowledge those findings or have more of a voice in the discussion?
I don't see the present Malaysian government doing it at the moment. I suspect what could happen is if the Commission of Inquiry is credible and the findings are credible, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the smaller Western governments respond first, meaning by which governments like Sweden, perhaps Belgium, Austria, I wouldn't be surprised if they respond. And then perhaps others will follow suit, and Malaysia could be one of them that may follow suit. But I don't see the Malaysian government taking the lead on this.
Well, thanks for your time, Dr. Muzaffar.
It's a pleasure.